Hello, everyone. My name is Alaina G. Levine, and I'm president of Quantum Success Solutions and author of the book Networking for Nerds. And I'm truly delighted and honored to be with you today to present this webinar. This is an important webinar right now where we are on this planet at this time. This is an odd time to be existing on this pale blue dot in space. We're in the time of a crisis. We're in the time of a pandemic and a quarantine in many areas of the planet. And we are still trying to move our careers forward, and we're still trying to make an impact with our career, with our expertise. And so it's very important to keep your eye on that ball, to keep your eye towards continuing to advance your career. But what we're going to be talking about today in this webinar is how to do it with a generous spirit, because hashtag spoiler alert, and I love spoiler alerts, hashtag spoiler alert, networking is not about what I can get from you. It's not a dirty enterprise. It's not me trying to trick you into giving me a job. Networking is actually the most powerful and most honorable endeavor in which you can engage, because networking is all about how can I help you? What can I do to support your mission? How can I inject value into your team? And so what we're going to be talking about today in this webinar is how to network in this spirit of generosity from afar. And make no mistake about it, I am a networking ninja. I love to network. I network all the time. But most of the networking that I do, even when we weren't in a pandemic, most of the networking that I do is not in person. You do not have to be at a conference or meeting somebody literally in person to network with them. The majority of the networking that I had already been doing was by virtual means. And so that's part of what we're going to be talking about today as well. So this webinar is being recorded, and you will be able to access it and read and watch it as much as you want later on. I would like to thank my sponsors today. This webinar is brought to you by the American Institute of Physics and its partners of the Career Development Network, the Career Network, and that includes the AVS Science and Technology Organization, the American Association of Physicists in Medicine, the American Association of Physics Teachers, IEEE Computer Society Physics Today, and of course my old stomping ground, the Society of Physics Students. I was co-president when I was a student at the University of Arizona. I come from a background of physics, but don't tell anyone. My degree is in math. Shh. But I've been amongst physicists and the physics community my entire career, and have even written for Physics Today magazine. So it's nice to be with you. You are welcome to tweet, live tweet, or post anything that I say. You're welcome to take screenshots and post those on Twitter, on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, any site that you want. I just ask that if you do post something, that you use my hashtag networking for nerds and my handle at Alaina G. Levine, so I can repost it for you and give you a little bit more credit. And I would like to invite you to join me on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn. That's my LinkedIn address. It's Alaina G. Levine. Very simple to find me. You don't even have to customize the invitation to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm asking you to connect with me because LinkedIn is the primary way that I communicate different types of career planning resources, most of them free, including announcements about webinars and resources and articles, things that I've produced as well as things that my colleagues have produced. So I want to help you advance your career even in the middle of this pandemic. And so join me on LinkedIn so I can give you the opportunity to do so. So we're talking about networking. And as I mentioned, networking is based on a spirit of generosity. What can I do for you? So I want to give you a very specific definition of networking so you know what we're talking about. And we use this networking definition in any type of networking scenario. So whether we were in person or we are virtual as we are now, we're going to be engaged in this type of networking. So networking is a spectrum of activities. Don't think that just because we talk once or you reach out to me and connect with me on LinkedIn that we are now networked. We are networked, you're in my network, but until we have a meaningful engagement, which could be an informational interview or which is also called an informal conversation or an informal discussion, until we start the conversation, the networking has not reached its potential for what it could build for the people who are involved. So it's a spectrum of activities, beginning with that first point of interaction. And here's the wonderful thing about it. Here's the beautiful thing about it. It aims always for a win-win alliance where we're both providing value to each other over time, and it never ends. It's a long-term relationship. I am investing in that relationship right now when I engage you. So that's what networking is. Now, with that in mind, let me tell you a quick story about myself and how I've been thinking about networking since this pandemic has hit. So my background, as I mentioned, is math and physics, and my expertise is in STEM career development. I've been in the STEM career space for about 20 years. I've been running my organization for about 15 years, and I'm a professional speaker. I'm a corporate comedian, which will be abundantly clear. I write a lot about careers. I speak a lot about careers. So I speak at universities and conferences and companies around the world. And of course, when the coronavirus hit, when COVID-19 hit, within a matter of a week and a couple of weeks beyond that, all of my in-person gigs for the foreseeable future disappeared into thin air. Gone, gone. So all my gigs were gone. Now those gigs, that's my job. That's my business, is speaking. Those gigs represent a significant amount of my income for the year, or my income for potentially years to come. And so what that loss of those gigs meant was not just the sadness of not being able to see physicists and scientists and amazing STEM goddesses and gods in person and interact with you in person, but it also meant that my pocketbook, my financial wellness was going to be in peril. And, you know, in addition to eating food and having to pay my rent, and obviously having to paint my house, as you can see behind me, I also have a significant cupcake budget, as you probably do as well. So suddenly my cupcake budget, in addition to my rent and my food and other essential costs that I have to pay to live as a human, were going to be impacted negatively. So I thought about this. I thought about how I was going to manage this. And I realized that what I could do during this pandemic to not only help myself, but more importantly, to help others, was to present myself as a resource to organizations, to parties, that some of whom I had never collaborated with before. So what I did was I actually emailed almost all of my current and former clients, and even some parties who had never hired me. And I emailed them, and I didn't email them asking them for a job. I didn't say, I need a job, hire me, give me money for my cupcake budget. I didn't say that, because that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to get, I'm trying to provide something of use to the parties that I'm engaging with. That's networking. And I emailed them and I said, during this very challenging time, I can imagine that you want to connect and stay connected to your members, to your students, to your constituents. I can help you with this. I've been doing webinars for many, many years, and I can give webinars on topics like networking from afar or career planning in a crisis. I want to see how I can serve as a resource for you, to you, during this challenging time. That's what I said to my colleagues, the people who I had been networking with. And again, some people that I hadn't talked to, even for a long time, and even some people that had never hired me. I emailed them with an offering. I want to see what I can do to help you. If I can be of assistance to you during this challenging time, please let me know, because this is my expertise. This is my knowledge base. And what I found was that people responded really well to this, because, and I also recognized as I approached them, I acknowledged that we're in the middle of a crisis. I emailed people and I would say, I hope this email finds you healthy and safe. I hope your family and your colleagues find this healthy and safe. So I acknowledged the crisis while I was networking, and I tried to position myself as somebody who was going to add value and not necessarily take value. The reality with networking is, because it is a win-win, I'm offering value, right? I'm offering to give webinars on topics that would be of use to you, to your colleagues, to your constituents, to your students at this moment. But I also am expecting something back. I might not expect something this minute, because that's networking. I expect that there will be value exchange over time. So I had people who did not hire me, but they appreciated that I reached out, and it was one more way to solidify the relationship, because I am investing in the long term. I am playing the long game. In other words, I'm thinking long term how I can help different people in my network. And when you think about networking in that way, even in this virtual environment, as I want to see what I can do to help you, this is a challenging time. This is an unprecedented time. We're all suffering in our own unique way. You will actually see opportunities open up to you as opposed to closed opportunities. And that's what we want to do. We want to get access to hidden opportunities, or we want to get access to opportunities that are created uniquely for us because we are presenting ourselves and communicating our value in the right moment. I'm going to give you examples of that in a bit, but I just wanted to sort of give you that spoiler alert so you know where we're coming from and let you know what I've been doing myself. So the key points that I've really tried to make sure are in the forefront of my brain and my heart as I'm engaging in this type of networking is, first of all, compassion and empathy. We're all in this together. And patience. If I'm going to be compassionate and empathetic to you, to me, to us, to your team, to your needs, to your wants at this moment, I have to be patient. So I'm not going to expect you to return my email within a week, maybe not even 2 weeks. I emailed somebody yesterday just to follow up because I hadn't heard from her in about, I think, a week and a half. I had emailed her about an idea. She didn't respond, so I emailed her a follow-up, and I said, just let me know if this is of interest or not, but I'd love to work with you. And she wrote back and she said, I'm so sorry I didn't respond. My email inbox has been in shambles. And I really loved how she put that because honestly, I think we can all agree all of our email inboxes and outboxes are totally in shambles since COVID hit. And so I'm going to have patience for you and patience with you and patience for myself too about how we manage and how we network. So if I don't hear from you right away, I'm not going to, text you that afternoon or that middle of the night at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to wait a period of time. I'm going to wait at least a week and maybe 2 to see if I can follow up with you. I'm going to recognize that we are and acknowledge that we're all in this together. And I'm going to look to provide value. I'm always looking to see what problem can I solve for you. And honestly, when you're networking with somebody, including these virtual means, when you start to have that conversation, and honestly, excuse me, the aim of you reaching out to people now by virtual means, via email, via connecting with them on LinkedIn and customizing, in this case, customizing the invitation or sending an email or sending a comment to somebody, a message to somebody through another social media site that you'd like to collaborate with them or would like to explore the potential to collaborate, which is, by the way, one of my favorite phrases to use. I'd like to explore the potential to collaborate with you. Very genuine when I use that because I'm literally interested in exploring that issue with you. When you're reaching out to people via virtual means, the immediate aim is to have that in-person conversation. And when I say in-person here, I mean it's going to be in-person via Zoom, via WhatsApp, via Skype, via whatever means you have. You don't necessarily even have to be on camera, but you do want to have a conversation where you are actually talking to the person, if not anything on the phone. Excuse me. And so it's very useful as you're thinking about this in terms of when you get somebody on the phone or on Skype and you're talking to them, you want to understand what are the challenges they're facing right now. What are the problems that they're looking to solve right now in their research group, in their lab, in their division, in their career, in their organization, whatever type of system that they're operating in. You are a problem solver. Above all, above anything else, and at the very core of who you are a problem solver. And quite frankly, people with science degrees and engineering degrees and mathematics degrees and technology degrees, you have an advantage in the marketplace for career development and job searching because quite frankly, with a STEM degree, and even just having studied it informally, in my opinion, you actually set yourself up for success because who are the most successful problem solvers? It's people who have been studying STEM. It's people who have been studying problems that aren't even clear what the problem is, looking for solutions where they peer into a void. You're doing this where you peer into a void and you don't even know how to measure the system, let alone to describe the system. You don't even understand what the problem is yet in the system that you want to solve. That takes guts, that takes grit, that takes bravery, but it also takes a very complex and a very strong, a very fortified sense of problem solving. So we're solving a problem also when we're on the career marketplace, when we're on the job search, and any time, including in the networking ecosystem. we are looking to solve problems for another party. And when you engage in that conversation with somebody, you're learning what are the problems that they're facing at this moment that you could potentially help them solve. And make no mistake that even though you may be early in your career, perhaps some of you are high school students or undergraduates or graduate students or postdocs, maybe you're amateur scientists and science enthusiasts, you're early in your career, you're not essentially an established leader in your field yet, there is still value that you can provide the leaders in your field. And if you're curious about how that works, you can take a look. Here's a resource for you, an article that I wrote about this topic called Networking with Dr. God. Networking with Dr. God. You can Google it. You'll find it. It was on Science Magazine. You can read it for free. And it was all about how early career professionals in any field, in any sector, in any industry, in any geography around the world can network with people who are leaders, who are CEOs, who are the Nobel laureates, who are the vice presidents, who are the presidents, the leaders of those fields. And I call them Dr. God with a little bit of a comedic spin, but in an honorable way, because of course the whole field orbits around them. So Dr. Gods want to network with early career professionals just as much as you want to network with them. They get value from speaking with you just as much as you get value from speaking with them. Take a look at that article, and I can answer questions about that towards the end if you want some more details. So problem solving. I want to see what problem I can solve for you. That's going to become elucidated in that conversation. I'm also going to be operating under the auspices of grace, gratitude, and giving. Grace about how I interact with you, gratitude for the opportunity to interact with you, the honor of interacting with you, and the possibility and the potential for me to help you with your challenges at this moment. Of course, because this is such an unprecedented and bizarre scenario, it's a crisis. We have to use flexibility, and we also have to customize our solutions for our potential clients. And I'll use the word client carefully. When I use the word client or customer here, I mean anyone that is investing resources in you. So that could be time, that could be money. They're hiring you. That could be your PI hiring you to be a postdoc. It could be the boss who hires you to work for this company. Anyone who invests resources in you of any kind is a client or a customer in my mind. So if I'm going to see what I can do to solve a problem for a customer, which could potentially lead to a full-time position, I'm going to have to customize my solutions, perhaps in real time as we're talking. And that requires you to be very flexible and very adaptive and adaptable too. But honestly, that's something that you have at your advantage as well as a STEM educated professional. So your ongoing questions while you're networking are, what problems am I uniquely qualified and positioned to solve in this marketplace, and for whom can I solve these problems? What value can I add to your project, team, organization, even the larger field and community? What challenges can I help overcome now or in the future? What opportunities can we collaboratively pursue? This is an interesting question that you think about also when you're networking with somebody, because you may have an idea. Let's say there's this professor, Dr. X. Dr. X works on something that you would love to be able to work on. It's something that you've been very excited about for quite a long time. Maybe you'd like to get a postdoc in her lab. Well, you know what? You wouldn't email Dr. X and say, do you have a postdoc? Do you have any money to support a postdoc? Do you have any jobs? Do you have any openings? Can you give me a job? Can you give me money? Can you give me a postdoc? Can you give me cupcakes? You wouldn't ask, gimme, gimme, gimme. Instead, you would actually say, I see parallels. That's another one of my favorite phrases. I see parallels between our own interests and goals, and I'd like to see how we could potentially collaborate together. And you know, when you do that type of thing, what you find is that you can actually, is very interesting to me, you can actually start to create an opportunity for the both of you, an opportunity for her and an opportunity for you, and an opportunity collaboratively to work together. And that's really when you see the magic. I mean, the magic of networking really happens when you're engaged in that type of generous networking, when you build a partnership that is based on the win-win, that is based on the value exchange, that is creating an opportunity sometimes out of thin air for both of you that you never would have expected or you never would have thought to pursue if you were on your own. So The last question, of course, is what can I do to help you during this challenging time? Now, you don't have to literally ask these questions, although you might. Some of them I've actually asked of my clients, my colleagues, my team members, but these are the ongoing questions in your mind. That's what you want to be thinking about. Very helpful. With these questions in mind, we all need new collaborators and to expand our network at any given time. So a lot of people have asked me, but Alaina, I don't feel comfortable, emailing somebody or finding somebody on LinkedIn, and I'm going to tell you how to find contacts in a bit. I don't feel comfortable about how to actually email somebody who I've never met before and say I'd like to work with them. I don't think that it's appropriate. But remember, networking is based on a spirit of generosity. So here's the thing I want you to think about. Let's say we weren't in a crisis. In any non-crisis scenario, in a non-crisis ecosystem, I, as a member of my community, a member of the field, I need always a constant influx of diverse sources of inspiration, i.e. my network, or my networks, if you want to call it that, to help me solve my problem in new ways. Whatever problem I happen to be focused on at that moment, I need new collaborators. I need new people around me to help me. That's the value of networking in a non-crisis scenario, is to be able to get new perspectives and new ideas from people who are coming from different backgrounds, different experiences, even different geographies, different cultures, who can help me see the problem for what it's worth in its full dimensionality and not just as a two-dimensional problem, right? That's the key. Right? Now, here we are in a crisis. It's a very, very challenging time for everybody. How does that rule change? The reality is that the rule doesn't change at all. In this crisis, we all need people who can help us solve the problems that we're engaged in this crisis, even more so. In other words, networking, if networking is honorable at all other times, and it's even more honorable right now because we are all in this crisis together, we need new collaborators. We need new ways to think about our problems. And those problems are not just technical in nature, within the work that we're doing, whatever job we happen to have, whether we're a student or employed, whatever our field is, but it's also based on other types of things. Those problems can be business related, like management or communications or budgeting or grant writing. They can also be other types of problems like expanding my career, advancing my career, and moving on to my next job. And similarly, when you're networking with me, I'm going to need a new job just as much as you're going to need a new job. We all need jobs at any given time. In a crisis, we definitely need our job more than ever. People are losing jobs. Organizations are reneging on contracts. They are canceling deals for people who have been on the job market. I've heard of that in particular universities as they've shrunk budgets during this very, very difficult time. New faculty positions that were supposed for postdocs and graduate students who were supposed to start as faculty in the fall, those positions have been eliminated. So those postdocs or those graduate students who spent a year on the academic job search now have lost 2 years because they lost the year that they just engaged in it. They got the job offer. The job offer has now been rescinded, and now they have to do it another year. So this is very, very difficult. So in a crisis, we need our networks, and we need to be networking more than ever, and in a very diverse way. We need to be networking with a diverse set of people from all over the world, from many different fields, not just our own field, so we can aim to solve the problem that we're engaged in, or the problems that we're engaged in right now. We are trying to continue our work, whatever work we happen to be in, which requires that we continue to learn and hone new skills. We need to meet and speak with new people in these diverse fields, jobs, sectors, geographies, cultures, communities, perspectives. We need to do appropriate self-promotion, which I'm going to talk to you more about that in a bit, including about ourselves and our work and that of our teams. And we need to gain information and perspective that enables the success of ourselves and the success of our networked contacts. So now, may I present some data? Let's talk about data. You like data? I like data. I'm in math. You're in physics. We love data. Hashtag data. Data is awesome. Yas. Yas. Let's talk about data. So first of all, the American Institute of Physics, their Statistical Research Center, is an absolutely amazing, enriching resource. I highly recommend that you take a look at this. Totally free. all on the web, lots and lots and lots of reports, very, very well done about the state of jobs and employment and workforce development in STEM fields, in particular within the physics community and physical sciences and engineering. So I wanted to give you, this is where all of this data that I'm about to present you comes from. It comes from the American Institute of Physics Statistical Research Center, and I want to thank the team there for their assistance in helping me prepare this presentation. I want to talk to you about a couple of different data points, which is very interesting to me, and it's very relevant as we're virtually networking in the middle of this crisis. So first of all, they did this data collection and this research. I believe if I look carefully, it was for the classes of 2016, 17, and 18 combined, and this was finalized actually this spring. So of course things are going to change quite a bit during the crisis, but I just wanted to give you sort of an understanding of where we have been in terms of physical sciences and physics. And for those of you who don't have a physics degree or background is not in physics, I don't want you to worry. What I want you to do is think about extrapolating this data to include your area of expertise, because what I've found in my own experience is that any STEM field is relevant is relevant and is also useful in pursuing a career, no matter where that career is. And so the data that we have about physics majors and physical sciences probably could be, I'm going to say probably because I haven't done the research myself, probably could be extrapolated to whatever field you happen to be in. I'm going to say that most likely it can be based on my own anecdotal data that I have collected over 20 years of being in the STEM career development field. But I'm not a researcher in this subject, so I just wanted to make that clear. So here we are, this first slide, we talk about the field of employment for new physics masters 1 year after the degree. And what was very interesting to me about this is only 28% of people who got a physics master's degree are pursuing a career in physics or astronomy. 28%. The rest are all in different areas of the scholarship, different areas of of industry, and different areas, different fields, and different arenas. 6% were specifically in non-STEM, but then there was about 11%, as you see, of the other natural science, technology, and math areas, 14% in education, and 26% in engineering. Very, very interesting to me. What this shows me is how versatile, honestly, how versatile the physics major is in many, many other fields, which is how I extrapolate to other relevant realms as well. Here's another set of data that I want to share with you about physics bachelor's degrees. 1 year after receiving their degree, of 8,800 recent degree recipients, and I'm just carefully looking, this was classes of 2017 and 18, only 52%, excuse me, only 29%, this was very interesting to me, only 29% were in graduate study in astronomy or physics. So that means the vast majority were pursuing areas that had nothing to do with physics. So sure, 19% were doing graduate study in other fields. Again, that shows the versatility, but 52% went into the workforce. So you do not necessarily have to get that PhD or that master's degree to be successful in the field that you want to be in. That's an important area to remember. And this was, I think, the final slide, and this was the initial employment sectors of new physics bachelors from the classes of 2015 and 16 combined. Check this out. The vast majority are in the private sector. 66% are in the private sector. Only 9% are working in colleges or universities. And then, as you can see, there are other areas as well. But what this tells me is that having the physics degree gets you into jobs that are very exciting, very enjoyable, very intellectually stimulating, but may not be, quote unquote, the traditional path or what we presumed as the traditional path in the past for a physics major. So just some data to think about. Of course, I really do estimate that a lot of this is going to change. I think it's already changing, and I'll be very interested to see what the Statistical Research Center of the American Institute of Physics has to publish about these changing times. So going back to networking, to the virtual networking, I want to talk to you about how you actually can demonstrate that win-win, giving you 3 examples. These are real life examples. I've actually written about all 3 of these people people. So the first person is a biophysicist. So this is a person who absolutely had wanted to work in biosensors. He had a dream. That was his dream job, his dream career was to contribute to the pharmaceutical arena, to the biotech arena by developing biosensors. But what he didn't know was information about certain types of nanotechnology or nanoscience techniques that were needed to develop biosensors that, of course, would be put in the body. So he wanted to work with a professor. He was a PhD student getting his PhD in biophysics. He wanted to work with a professor for his postdoc. If he wanted to work with a professor who would be able to give him this opportunity to work in biosensors to increase and improve his skills and diversify his skills, quite frankly. But he didn't email professors saying, I want to work in biosensors. I don't know how to do nanoscience, but can you hire me anyway? I need a job from you. I want a job for you. Do you have any money? Do you have any positions? He didn't do that. Instead, he did a literature search. He looked for professors who were working in biosensors, but were specifically not utilizing a certain biophysics technique that he had expertise in. And then he emailed those people. And he said, this is my dream, to work in a lab like yours. I see parallels between our own interests and goals. Your work really resonates with me. I would like to speak with you to informally, always use the word informally. I'd like to speak with you informally for a few minutes, 15 minutes perhaps, to learn how we could potentially explore the potential to collaborate. I would like to see if I might be able to assist your team by teaching you and your colleagues about the biophysics side of this, while I learn about the nanoscience side while we produce biosensors together in a very innovative and novel way. Would you be open to that informal conversation? And shocker of shocks, surprise of surprises, they were actually, people responded, including a professor of mechanical engineering at Northeastern University. She probably gets lots and lots of emails every week saying, can you give me a job? Do you have any jobs? Here was somebody who was emailing about, I want to see what I can do for you. Can we talk about it informally? Can we explore the potential to collaborate? And by the way, when you use the phrase, can we talk about it informally, what that means to the other person is it's a passphrase, it's a password. It means to that person you are not trying to get something from them. You are trying to see what we can legitimately, genuinely build together. I want to see what value I can provide. Of course, I expect some value in exchange, but not necessarily right now and not necessarily in the form of a job. It could be just in the form of information or advice. But I want to see what we can do to build that mutually beneficial relationship. So he emailed these people, and in this particular, this one professor, and she was interested. She was intrigued because she didn't have this expertise in her lab. And she ended up creating a postdoc position for this biophysicist in her lab from scratch, because she saw value in him joining her team. And this is what she said, and I love that she said this. He taught us techniques in biophysics, and we taught him about nanoscience. If that does not encapsulate the win-win, I don't know what is. She was thinking win-win, he was thinking win-win, and they created a new system, a new opportunity for both of them, for the team. Another example, mathematician who worked for the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. This was her dream. Oh my goodness, her dream was to work for JPL. And she had her expertise, her PhD in mathematics, did have to do with modeling and simulation. I think she even did lava flow, but really her expertise in volcanology stopped at that point. So she was not an expert in geophysics or geoscience or anything related to the types of divisions that she wanted to work in at JPL. So rather than begging for jobs that she might not be qualified for, she began emailing people and representing herself as, this is what she said, I sold myself as an applied mathematician who could solve any problem. I can help you with the modeling and simulation. I can help you with the calculations, with the quantification of these systems. Could we have an informal conversation? I'd like to see, maybe there's something I can do to assist you with my expertise. And indeed, people within that organization were interested, and she ended up getting a job in JPL at Jet Propulsion Laboratory in volcanology, helping them with their quantification with their calculation and modeling and simulation. And the final story, some of you may have heard this story before because I tell it a lot. It's one of my favorite stories. Oh my goodness, the man with the plan for cans. And that's actually based on an article that I wrote for APS News. So you can Google that. That's the name of the article, The Man with the Plan for Cans. So let me tell you about this story. Shortened version. This is a story about a physicist, a particle physicist who was working at a university in North Carolina, and he was married to a food scientist who worked for Campbell's Soup Company in my home state of New Jersey. Exit 8A, yo, okay? Now, they had the classic two-body problem, which you hear about a lot, right? It's usually a couple, a partnership, where both people are typically highly educated, very specially educated, trying to find jobs in the same location. And for them, they were unable to do that. They had a commuter marriage, which was a bummer for them because unlike most couples, they actually wanted to live with each other. So they had this flyback marriage where they flew back and forth to see each other from New Jersey and North Carolina. So one day, this physicist flies up to New Jersey and has dinner with his wife and some of the executives from the plant at Campbell's Soup Company where they make the mushroom soup. And over dinner, these people, these executives started complaining about a pain point, remember that, a pain point in the plant, in their system that they could not help, they could not alleviate, they could not solve this problem. The pain point, the problem was very simply that every can of mushroom soup, and when you open that can at the end, every can of soup has to be exactly the same color. You can't open a can of soup and find green soup and then open another can and find blue and then another can and open and find purple, because that's bad quality control, or more technically speaking, it's super gross. So they had to find a way to identify mushrooms that were going down the line in the plant that could potentially change the outcome of the final product. But woe unto me, I'm just an executive. I don't have a physics degree. I don't have an expertise. How am I going to solve this problem? Oh, woe is me. This is what was happening at dinner. Of course, not exactly like that, but they were complaining. They were crying hysterically, I think, in their flan while they were talking. And this physicist hears them talking about that pain point. And in that moment, he swooped in and he adopted superhero physicist mode. And he said, well, wait a second. Why don't you use such and such optical device? This was an optical device that he had at the forefront of his mind. It was part of his toolbox. It was part of his toy box. And these executives said, that sounds interesting. And that turned into a more detailed conversation to explore the potential to collaborate, which turned into a sabbatical project, which turned into a job being created for a particle physicist at Campbell's Soup Company to work in the plant where they make the mushroom soup. So here's somebody who went from quarks and gluons to soup-based solutions. Why did they hire him? Because at the right moment when he was talking with them, when they shared that they had a pain point in a system, a problem that they couldn't solve, a gap that needed to be filled, he heard them. He listened to them as he was networking with them. And he showed them in their language that he could solve the problem, bringing expertise from his own arena, from his own dimension of physics. They had never hired somebody with a physics PhD before. As far as I know, maybe never anybody with even a physics bachelor's degree. But they created a job for this person who had no food science, no chemical or safety or process engineering experience or manufacturing experience whatsoever, because he was communicating in a very generous spirit. Why don't you use this optical device? This could potentially help you. And they saw that that was value. And when they saw that value could help them solve a problem that they had been running around and had been unable to solve, they were more than willing to engage in a conversation to learn more about what value he could provide. And they were open-minded about bringing him in and creating a job for him. So they finally did solve the two-body problem, by the way. They got to live in New Jersey together, that physicist and that food scientist, and he ended up really, really enjoying this career and this job that he had at Campbell's, saving the company millions of dollars while designing all sorts of innovations using his exciting and versatile physics expertise from this other dimension that they had not used or accessed before, or even thought to access before. See, that's the value of networking. When you're engaged in the conversation, you may hear somebody talking about a wall that is impeding innovation or a gap in the system. And when you hear that, That is the moment that you go ding, 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 ding. Wait a second, maybe I can be a resource to you. Maybe I can help you with this. Your job when you're networking is to listen for people to describe pain points in systems. This is a pain point that we're dealing with right now. COVID is a pain point that we're all engaged in. So you're listening to find out what is it that's causing this pain in your system? How can I help alleviate it? Is there something I can do? Is there some sort of data that I can help analyze? Is there some way that I can be a member of your team to help you solve a problem right now? When you do that, you get access to hidden opportunities. Because what I estimate is that about 90%, really 90%, interestingly enough, of jobs are either hidden or are created exclusively from networking, from this engagement that we're involved in. And the reason why this is so important, networking in general is so important, I want to give you an example of this, and then I want to talk to you more about how you can engage in virtual networking here. But this is a metaphorical example, but honestly, there are elements of this that are completely, you can see complete truth elements to it in any scenario. Let's say I am a decision maker. I have a job that is advertised. I need to fill this job. That means that I have a problem. I have a problem. I need to find a candidate or candidates who would be the right fit for my corporate culture, for my organizational culture, who have the right set of necessary technical skills and business skills and communication and team building skills. So I need to find a candidate who will be the right fit. That's actually quite complicated and very difficult to do. So if I'm advertising this position, I will always, every single time, always have two metaphorical piles of applications that I can look at that will help me decide which candidates I want to bring in for interviews. On one side, I have a pile of applications that consists of everybody who saw this job on the internet and applied. So this, depending on the time right now in COVID, because everybody is concerned about their jobs and jobs are being eliminated, when there is advertised jobs, and make no mistake, people are still hiring. When there are advertised jobs, you may get, or I as the decision maker, I may get 50, 100, I may get hundreds of applications. Now they're coming in through the website. I don't know who these people they are. They could be coming in from another dimension through the wormhole, other creatures from an exoplanet in a different galaxy. I have no idea who they are. So this pile is very big. This is a hard problem to solve. But I said there's always a second metaphorical pile. That pile consists of one application, two applications, maybe three. The first application is your application. It's my buddy Justin's application. I've known Justin for many years now. I know what a hard worker he is, how talented he is, how smart he is, what a great asset he would be to an organization. I email him and say, Justin, we have an opportunity in my organization. Would you consider applying? He gives me his application. It goes to the top of the pile. Because I've been networking with him all this time, I already know him. I know how valuable he's going to be. I'm going to look at his application first. The second application, I may ask Justin, do you know anybody who would be good for this position? And he says, yes, of course, my good friend Carl. Carl would be excellent. And now because Justin has vetted Carl for me, I'm going to put Carl's application on this pile as well. And then there might be a third person. Let's pretend that I have a friend, I have somebody who I don't know. I've never met this person or interacted with them ever. And this person, I don't know, let's say this person's name is Bonnie. So Bonnie messages me. She finds me on LinkedIn. And she messages me and she says, Alaina, I see a lot of parallels between our interests. I think there might be an opportunity to collaborate. Could we have a 15-minute phone call? I'd like to talk to you. And by the way, I see that you are advertising this position. This position is very interesting to me. I think I would be a good fit, but I'd like to talk to you more about it. Could we have a very informal conversation to chat? Now, I'm a cool gal. You guys know that by now. I'm super cool. So Bonnie has emailed me and messaged me, and you know what? We haven't met before. Was that clear? We haven't met before? Because she has reached out to me, even at this moment when the job is advertised, she's still helping me to solve the problem better because I'm getting a chance to audition her for a very short period of time for 15 minutes to see whether or not she would be the right fit. So I talk to Bonnie and I find out, wow, Bonnie rocks. She's awesome. She's smart. She's talented. She's knowledgeable. She's a hard worker. She's got excellent communication skills, excellent managerial skills. She's amazing. I definitely want to put her on this pile. Now, as a decision maker, deciding who I'm going to invite in to interview for this job. Which pile will I go to every single time? 122%. Remember, I have a degree in mathematics. Every single time, I will always go to the pile over here with the 3 candidates, with Justin, with Carl, and with Bonnie, the people who've been networking with me either in the past, who've been vetted by people who I know, or people who just started, even just started networking, just reaching out to me to say, I want to see how I might be able to be a good fit for this position. That pile is going to reduce my risk every single time. So I'm always going to go with the people that I've already been networking with or who have reached out to me even at this juncture. Remember that for yourself, that you are actually helping me, the decision maker, solve a problem when you're networking with me, because I don't want to attack this problem by looking at this enormous pile of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications from people that I have no idea who they are. I'd rather go with the people that I already know or I'm getting to know, because that's going to reduce my risk significantly. And I'm all about solving the problem of finding the right candidate while reducing my risk. That's what networking does for you. It helps you help me to solve a problem, and it helps you to reduce my risk in hiring and bringing in candidates. Very, very important. Another thing I want you to be thinking about in terms of networking is that most opportunities, as I said, are hidden, and not every opportunity will be a job. It might be just an opportunity to converse, but every opportunity does lead to another, and seize as many as you can and create those that you want and that you need. And you know, a lot of this involves overcoming imposter syndrome, and I'm just going to take a moment to talk about that. Imposter syndrome is insidious, and it really, really takes hold of your brain and your heart and your soul. And it's horrible because it convinces you that you're not worthy. It convinces you that you're not talented, that you're not an asset, that you're not smart, that all of the things you've done in the past, your entire record of achievement, is nothing. That is fake news. Insidious fake news. It is a virus of the mind. So we have to be aware that imposter syndrome, in particular during a crisis, during a very challenging period, if we're without a job, if we've been laid off, if we've been let go, or we had a job and the contract was rescinded, that is the moment when imposter syndrome will creep into your system and convince you that you are not talented, that you are not worthy. And what you have to do is make note of that, be aware, acknowledge that that is happening, and recognize that this is not actually true. You go back to the facts. Always go back to the facts of what you've done. Look at your CV, look at your resume, look at the projects, look at the classes you've been involved in and taken, the projects you've been involved in, the skills you've acquired, the problems you've solved. Remember those facts. Do not let imposter syndrome take hold of you. And if it does, you punch it away. You get rid of it because it has no place here. It is meant to pull you down. And when we're in a crisis, what we have to do, remember the compassion, that involves self-care. It involves self-compassion. We have to build ourselves up. So you get rid of imposter syndrome as soon as it strikes. I've also mentioned to you that networking is related to promoting ourselves, and I just want to give you a very brief definition of what I mean by that, because self-promotion is not bragging. We never embellish, we never lie, we only tell the truth. And I find that most STEM professionals tend to undervalue and therefore under-communicate or under-promote or undersell their expertise, their skills. And so what we want to do is just communicate the full extent of our values. So self-promotion happens in an appropriate form and time and ecosystem, such as posting something on LinkedIn. It authentically and truthfully provides strategic information about your value to me that encourages me to make a decision to engage you further in a positive way. So you emailing me and saying, my background is biophysics and I'd like to learn how we might be able to collaborate. I think I might be able to assist with this problem, or I'd like to learn what issues you're working on in your lab that I can assist you with. That is appropriate self-promotion. It's important for me to know that you have that background in biophysics or that you have that skill set. After all, how could I possibly engage you if I don't know these things? But remember, it's not boasting, and it's totally honorable because it's being your own champion. It's letting the other party know information that is strategically important for them to be able to solve their problems. That's what we're thinking about. So how do you find people for your networks? Certainly, you always start with the people near you, both metaphorically and physically and literally and figuratively. So we ask our colleagues, we ask our advisors, we ask our friends and family, who do you know? Do you know anybody in this community? Do you know anybody who works in this organization or this area? We're going to engage our professional organizations. Very, very useful. your professional society has a membership directory. You can go through that membership directory and find people and ask them, who do you, email that person and say, I found you in the membership directory for the American Association of Physicists in Medicine. I see you work in this type of hospital system. This is very interesting to me because that's the kind of thing that I want to do in my career. Currently, I'm getting my master's degree in medical physics at the University of Arizona Hospital System doing X and Y. I think there might be parallels between our own interests. Would you be open to a 15-minute conversation? I'd like to learn more about what you're doing. Maybe there's something I can do to help you. So the membership directory is very helpful. Also, I'd encourage you to engage the organization by volunteering to serve on committees, especially right now in the crisis. If you have time, volunteer, because now professional societies especially need more engaged members. They need people to serve on committees to keep the professional society going. So they will be especially appreciative, and being on a committee allows you the chance to actually be observed, to have other people who are leaders in their fields and in their organizations observe you in a working environment to see how talented you are, what a great positive can-do attitude you have, what great communication skills you have, what an asset you would be to the committee, and therefore what an asset you might be to their organization. Even with conferences, of course, there are virtual conferences, and I want you to attend those. Many of them are free or very, very reduced in cost compared to in-person conference costs. But there are also other ways that you can use conferences or leverage conferences to find people to network with. You can review past agendas or even current or future agendas, see who's speaking, and if somebody's speaking on a topic that's of interest to you, you can email that person. You can find people who are giving posters. You can look at the keynotes. You can look at the town halls. So engage the entire conference agenda to see who is an expert in different areas and reach out to them to talk to them about that area of expertise. Of course, reading, right? Not just reading papers, which are very useful, but even reading media articles. If somebody is quoted, if somebody is listed or mentioned in an article, they are promoting themselves. You can reach out to them and say, I really appreciate what you had to say in Physics Today about using optics and photonics in the biophysics, in the biotech arena. This is the kind of thing I'm interested in. Could I talk to you for 15 minutes? I want to see maybe there's something I can do to assist you, and I'd like to learn more. And this is another great phrase, particularly for those of you who are early in your career. Use this phrase. I would like to learn how I can position myself for success in this field, in this organization, in this community. Regional chapters and even local organizations or internal organizations within larger companies or larger universities, alumni associations, including on LinkedIn, and then of course social networks. I really use LinkedIn significantly, a huge amount, to find people to network with, and particularly during this crisis, I've been using it even more so, and Twitter too. If I see somebody that I want to connect with, I connect with them, I follow them on Twitter, and then I might send them a DM and say, I'd like to learn more about what you're working on. Can we set up a 15-minute phone call to talk about? So now, I haven't mentioned this before, but I want to say that you are the greatest audience that I have ever had, ever. Literally, figuratively, genuinely, you guys are amazing. So awesome. Yas. So because you are the best audience ever, I want to give you another resource. I wrote a book called Networking for Nerds. You are welcome to buy that. You're welcome to buy 7 copies if you'd like. But if you don't want to buy the book, guess what? Because you're so great, because you're so awesome, because this is the American Institute of Physics and the Careers Partner Network, I want to tell you that this slide that you see in front of you is actually the outline for my book. So you can actually follow this, take a photograph of this, take a photograph of me waving my arms hysterically. You could take a photograph of this and use this. This is your networking strategy. So here we're going to walk you through it, but I've kind of already talked about all these elements of it. So we remember it's a spectrum of continuous activities, right? And 6 degrees of separation, meaning that I know somebody who knows somebody who knows Bonnie, you know somebody who knows Justin, and so on and so on and so forth. So we are connected to every other person on this planet, just this planet, not the other exoplanets, by no more than 6 degrees. We're going to find people to connect with. That was the previous slide. And then we're going to ask for those informal conversations, those informational interviews. I actually prefer the term informal conversation, and I only and always ask for 15 minutes. I'm not going to take up your lunch hour. I'm not even going to take up your breakfast hour. I'm going to only, or your cupcake time. I'm only taking 15 minutes. I'm going to ask you different questions about your experience and experiences and problems and challenges that you're engaged in, particularly right now with COVID. And guess what? Here's another resource for you. There's an article that I wrote for Physics Today magazine, available for free on physicstoday.org. And on that article, the article is called Informational Interviews, Part 1 and Part 2. Part 1, I believe I have the template of the email that you used to write to ask for those informal conversations. And Part 2, I have a list of questions. So take a look at that series of articles that I wrote for Physics Today. So you're going to ask these questions. You're going to send a thank you email. You're going to maintain your network and stay connected, following up. I also wrote an article about that for Physics Today, which you can find. Organize your network the way that you feel comfortable. The way my brain works, the process that I've put into place to organize my network, it involves utilizing LinkedIn a lot. Like about 80% of my organization of my contacts is on LinkedIn, combined with my email and combined with my calendar. So for example, if you and I have a conversation, I'm going to make a note of that in my calendar, and then I'm going to say if we talked and we agreed that I would check in with you in about 3 weeks or so, I'm going to make a note of that in my calendar in 3 weeks to remind myself. But I'm always going to ask you, who else do you think I should be speaking to, and offer to be of assistance, especially during this time. In this crisis, we are engaged to be a resource. Our aim is always to see what we can do to help the person. So we're going to be polite, we're going to be respectful, we're going to ask for that 15-minute phone call or Zoom call, and again, you don't have to be on camera, but be patient if people don't respond right away, and invest for the future. Start to grow the relationship now so that you both can help each other in the future. Continue to demonstrate, not just show, but demonstrate in all of your communications, in the way you speak and what you say and how you speak, generosity, grace, gratitude. Be compassionate in your choice of words and what you discuss and when. Be flexible, be sensitive and mindful of the issues that we're dealing with. Be easy to work with. Ask questions, gather data, understand insight about current and future needs and goals of the other party so you could potentially help them, if not now, perhaps in the future. And offer ideas, make it a conversation. And always be thinking, what can I do for you? How can I move your agenda forward? But stay connected, check in, and remember that we are all in this together. So the bottom line is that networking is indeed honorable and generous. It's what can I do for you? It's how can I help you? We're in the middle of a crisis. I need assistance. I need helpers. I need colleagues. I need compatriots more than ever. So it is absolutely necessary for everyone. And it's the only way to create and access hidden opportunities, including opportunities that we create collaboratively together when we come together to share ideas. So we become what I call a career entrepreneur, looking for walls that are impeding innovation, or gaps in systems, or pain points in systems that we could potentially help alleviate. We're going to be engaged in delicate networking, but it is doable. It's inherently linked to self-promotion. You do it often. You diversify your networks in terms of geography and fields. And if you do it often, you are investing in both your future and your colleagues' future. And that's really the key. I want to see you succeed. I want to enable your success. That's the key with networking. So speaking of networking, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude again to my amazing team at the American Institute of Physics and the partners of the Career Network, the AVS Science and Technology Organization, the American Association of Physicists in Medicine, the American Association of Physics Teachers, IEEE, Computer Society, Physics Today, and Society of Physics Students. I want to thank my team, my amazing team, Bonnie, Liam, and Kelly. You guys rock. You're amazing. But audience, you guys rock as well. And as I said, you were welcome to take photographs and tweet anything I say. Hashtag networking for nerds at Alaina G. Levine. Connect with me on LinkedIn. You don't have to customize. I want to send you free career planning resources. And this concludes the formal part of the webinar. Thank you so much for your kind attention. I'm going to stick around because we have a few questions. I think we have more than a few questions. I'm going to stick around for at least a few more minutes. But I want to express my gratitude again to the kind audience. You invested your time today with me, and I don't take that lightly. I really appreciate it. It has been an honor and a privilege to work with you today, and I'm very excited to see what you do today, tomorrow, and in the later future with your career and with the careers of your colleagues in the spirit of generous networking. So thank you so much. So now I'm going to take some questions, and we got a ton of them. So I'm going to see what I can see to be able to answer. Okay. I'm just looking through to see if there's a question that I can answer. Hold on just one second. Okay, here's a great question. Umesh asked this question. Thank you, Umesh. And I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So Umesh asks, and Umesh is from India, hashtag India, yes, representing, welcome. Umesh says, how do you maintain long-term networking relations with people when we are doing work in completely different fields? Is it possible that our relations with past contacts could fade away? Thank you for asking that. Excellent question. So let's think about that from two perspectives or two parts. So first of all, when you're networking with somebody from a different field, I know, let's use me as an example. I'm a professional speaker. I'm a science writer. I know that there is great value to talk with people who are physicists in medicine in hospitals, who are physics teachers, who are people who are working in engineering, in optics, in phononics, in all different fields, who are working in education, in the humanities, who work as bus drivers, who work in as garbage collectors, who work in recycling plants, who work anywhere. I know that there's value because there is always value to engage somebody in a different field because I get new perspective, I get new ideas. And so it is absolutely possible to maintain the long-term relationship. It may not be that right now you would be formally able to work together, right? If you email somebody who, if you're let's say a physicist working as a physicist in medicine for, let's say, a medical center, and you reach out to somebody who is working as a physics teacher, it might not be immediately clear at this moment how you might collaborate, but that might become elucidated over time. That's why we're investing for the long haul. See, a lot of the contacts that I have are people that I've never actually worked with, and they are people in very, very diverse experiences and have diverse experiences compared to mine. They're in people in different sectors, in different regions of the world, in different types of communities, in different fields. They don't even work in STEM. They work completely in different fields. And my goal in networking with them is for the long term. I'm trying to see how we can engage each other. So yes, you can engage somebody and maintain a long-term relationship, but what I recommend you do is make it a point to check in with them, at least a couple of times a year. And that check-in could be simply, I wanted to see how you're doing, especially given COVID. Could we set up a 15-minute catch-up appointment? It could be around the holiday season in December. I wanted to wish you a very happy holiday season. It could be that you saw that person wrote a new article or a new paper, or they published something interesting on LinkedIn, and you could say, oh, I saw that you published this. This is really interesting to me. Could we talk more about this? This is something I want to explore in the future. So you can maintain long-term relationships, even with somebody who's not in your field, as long as you keep the connections going. So somebody asked about a resource related to this. On physicstoday.org, if you just look for my name, if you do a search for my name, you will see all of the career columns that I wrote for Physics Today. And that includes one that I wrote about how to follow up. And that will give you a list of all different ways to stay in touch with somebody. Now, Umesh also asked about, is it possible that our relations with past contacts could fade away? The reality is, as you network more and more, you're going to have more and more contacts. It's going to get more and more complicated and busy. And we don't have, 1,000 hours in every day. At least I don't. Maybe you have a time machine and a cloning machine. I don't have that access to that technology, so I don't have that ability to network and have conversations with 100 people every day. So the reality is that there will be people that you are not able to work with right now that might sort of fade off into the distance, into the background. But as long as you maintain at least once a year checking in with them, you can still maintain the connection, because maybe in the future, there will be an opportunity to work together. Maybe in the future, you will get an idea where you could collaborate with them. Or maybe in the future, they will come to you and say, you work for the University of Arizona. I'm actually applying for a job there right now. Could I talk to you and learn more about what it's like to work there, what the culture is like? And so you would be helping out them. So once you're networked, it is for the long haul. For example, in 2001, I went to my very first American Physical Society March meeting. At that March meeting, I met a professor of physics at a university in Scotland. We talked maybe about 15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe. I emailed him afterwards, but I did not stay in touch with him. It was my naivete, it was getting busy, it was life, whatever. But in 2008, so 8 years later, I emailed him and I said, I don't know if you remember me, but we met at the March meeting. We talked about this because I had remembered what we chatted about. And I'm actually working on a project that relates to Scottish universities. Would it be possible to talk with you? I think there might be an opportunity to collaborate. He said he remembered me. I don't know if he did. He might have just been being very gracious about it, but he was more than happy to talk to me. And it had been 8 years. And I've had that with people where I haven't talked to them in 10 years, more than that. The reality is we'd like to be engaged with them in more time, but ideally, but the reality is we won't. So as long as you at least aim to check in with somebody at least once a year, you can still maintain those connections. Thank you, Umesh, for that wonderful question. I think we have time. We have so many questions, but we're pretty much out of time. So I'm going to answer one more question. And then if you have other additional questions, you can email me. And we're going to be doing other webinars too. So stay in touch, stay tuned, because I'll probably be able to answer some of these as well. So somebody asked me a question. Okay. Deepika, thank you, Deepika, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you for this question. It's a great question as well. What if one of your past bosses makes you feel down by asking a question? Even though it's the COVID-19 situation, people are still not getting jobs. How come you're not getting one? Your boss, your PI might be asking you that question. Do you still keep in touch with a person like this in your network? And Deepika, that is such a critical question, and I am absolutely glad that you asked that. And I think it's a wonderful way to sort of end this, because there will be people that you will find in your networks, including potentially your PI and other people around you that are clearly not supportive of you, that do not want to see you succeed, or are not demonstrating that they have unwavering support for you, especially in the middle of a crisis like what we're experiencing right now. Now, it could be that they're just faulty in their communications. It could be as simple as that. Or it could be that they're a jerk. It could be that they're not a nice person. Or it could be something even worse. They could be what I call a zombie boss or colleague or PI, somebody who is truly not on your side, who wants to see you not succeed. They want to suck the energy out of your soul, because that's what zombies do. They don't want to see you shine. They see a bright, shiny STEM goddess or god like yourself, and they want to get all that energy and use it for themselves, which means deteriorating you. When you see somebody like this, you have to ask yourself, is it somebody who just doesn't have good communication skills, or is dealing with a challenge themselves right now and is not able to articulate that to you, which comes with the grace, the graciousness, the gratitude, and the giving aspect of the networking. So it could be something as simple as that. Are they being a jerk? And maybe this is something you could work around, or are they being a zombie? And this is somebody you can't be around or can't work with. And the answer if it's a zombie is you should not maintain connections with them. If it's somebody who's a jerk who maybe moves in and out of jerkiness, you could potentially stay connected. It's your choice. And if it's somebody who is just dealing with something really difficult, like we all are right now, and can't articulate their own grief about the situation, and therefore are misbehaving perhaps, that might be just a chance for you to step back and maybe contact them again in the future. So it is a very worthwhile question to ask, and it's something that we just have to be attuned to. This is another resource for you. I wrote an article about this also for Physics Today called Beware the Zombies, Haters, Pigs, and Jerks. 4 different classifications of different types of creatures that you might interact with in the course of your profession and your professional engagements. But let's end on a high note. Let me wish you the very best. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time for questions, and we have so many more questions, but I'm sorry, we are out of time. And again, I want to thank you for your kind attention. I want to wish you the very best. I'm not going to wish you good luck because you don't need it, but I will say you are with me. I am with you. We're in this together. This is a very difficult situation. This is a very, very big crisis that we are facing globally. But if we work together with a generous spirit, with a spirit of we can help each other, I think that we can actually move our careers forward and move into the dream jobs and the unicorn careers that we desire and would be awesome for our colleagues as well. So I wish you the very best with that. Thank you so much.